sometimes it's having that conversation. A lot of times we act more as like a counselor or like a life coach than anything else. But we can't even do that until we sit down and meet you. And that's really why we do offer that free sit down. It lasts between 60 and 90 minutes.
Right.
A lot of people are shocked by what that process really is, because it's really just getting to know you. Like, how is this affecting you with your time? How is this affecting you with your family? And how is this affecting you with your money? Everybody thinks it's about the money whenever you talk about an estate plan, but it's really about how's your reputation with your kids? How's your reputation with your spouse? What are you going to do as far as time management if you're going to be the child that's taking care of mom and dad? Everybody thinks, equal means fair. And especially if you're like a child caregiver and you're giving up your time at work or time with your family, maybe it's not 4 kids get 25% each, but let's plan for that.
Right.
The other thing is we've been through this with over 3,000 families, and so whenever you come with just a really dumb idea, we don't say, hey, that's a dumb idea, but we'll walk you through some of the practicalities of it. I mean, I think everybody was really taken back last year. We've worked a lot with assisted livings and nursing homes, which have a lot of restrictions on visitation. Even in November of 2021 here, there's a good chance that depending on your community, whether it be assisted living or nursing home, if somebody gets it, if somebody has COVID, they're probably locking down again. And so you're at least under another 14 days of quarantine. If you want to go into a community, you usually have to quarantine. A big problem right now is staff too. And so we walk through families about how to better utilize staff. Just this morning I got off a call with a guy who his father's sick enough that he needs to be in what we call skilled nursing, or a pretty high level of care. And we work with the family. Instead of paying $8,000-9,000 a month, the guy gets it for free through the government subsidies.
Wow.
But then he wonders, like, how do I make sure dad's getting good care? And it falls back to, again, a lot of non-legal stuff. Just checking on him, making sure that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak, bringing in some cold drinks or some Starbucks gift cards for $5 to the staff there. Don't you think that dad's going to get a little bit of better care than if he's not? People always say, well, that's not fair. Well, I don't want fair for my loved ones. I want them to have an upper hand. And I think where just that extra little treat, think about if you're a caregiver, most of these people are making less than $13 an hour, doing a job that most of us wouldn't really want to do. If there's a little candy dish in there, don't you think they're at least stopping by? And no person's going to stop in and grab a little candy bar and not say, hey, how you doing, right? It's the little stuff like that that makes a big difference.
So if I have one of these initial consultations scheduled with you a few weeks out or whatever you are, what are some things that I could do in preparation so that we would get the most out of the meeting? There's probably a few things that I could show up and it might even facilitate maximize the meeting.
We really don't put a whole lot of barriers. So many law firms have you fill out these like 5-10 page worksheets that ask you all about your money and your social security number and all kinds of crazy stuff before you even meet them. We don't do that. Like I said, the first meeting is really just talking through whatever issues you want. If you want to bring some questions, we're happy to walk you through. And it's just because like now we start chatting, it's good to write them down so we make sure they get covered.
Right.
But other than that, we have a script if you don't have your questions that we'll go through that just asks about where you're at, where you're going, where you want to be. It just gets to know you and talks about, can we help you? There are some people that come in that we just can't help. And the reason for that is maybe they're too late. If mom doesn't know who you are, who she is, what she's signing, you can't do a good plan then. You got to go through this court process called a guardianship conservatorship, and we can help you with that, but it's pretty expensive. It's kind of off-putting to people how much that costs. A lot of times cohabitating is really, really a bad idea. And so most people start out saying, I'll let mom come live with me or let dad come live with me. And that can work well depending on what their medical condition really is. You get somebody that has late stage Alzheimer's or cognitive impairment, that's not going to be something that you can really care for if you got teenagers at the house still.
Right.
Or if you do want to try it, let's at least sit down and talk about some ground rules. Communication and a plan is always better than not having a plan. who's going to set the rules? Remember, whenever you lived under your parents' roof, they were the boss.
Right.
Now they're under your roof, and you want to be the boss. How do you balance that? How do we talk about if you want to go out on date night, who's supervising mom or dad, especially if they got cognitive impairment?
Right.
These are all just things that we got to talk about, not necessarily just for the moment now, but also for the future. You know, it's usually a 5-year, 10-year long plan whenever we do one of these. How do we make sure that we're thinking about it through all the stages? But then whenever we talk about people that are, you know, do have cognitive capacity or legal capacity to still make a plan, we're going to walk you through all the facets, and we don't expect you to not know what you don't know whenever you walk in. Of course, you can bring in a ballpark of what your net worth is. You can bring in a ballpark of what business entity you have. You know, is it an LLC or a C Corp or an S Corp? But if you don't know that stuff, we don't need to know it at that stage. Whenever we decide to work together, we'll give you a list of what we need. And after you sign up after the first meeting, there's another meeting that's pretty quick after, usually within 24 to 48 hours or at least the same week.
Okay.
And then we're going to sit down and we're going to give you some homework for that meeting, just some things to think about. And then we're going to start with a foundation. And so the foundation for us is always going to be like a power of attorney, an advanced healthcare directive, which is like a medical power of attorney. We just call it something different in Georgia. A HIPAA release that you already have at all your doctors, makes it so that people can see your medical records and stuff like that. And then just getting kind of a basic estate plan going so that if something did happen to you, you at least know where your stuff goes. And then after that, you're going to have 2 more meetings where we get on top of that foundation, start building on it, making sure that it works the way that it's supposed to, and really start talking to you about things that you want to have happen. So often we have what are called like blended families, where it's like, you know, a second marriage, maybe kids from a previous, kids from another one. If something happens to one of those spouses, you have to be realistic about the fact that the mom-in-law or the dad-in-law probably doesn't have a great relationship with your biological kids. If you die, you're the thread that holds them together.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk to you about hard conversations, like, do you want to have part of your inheritance be a trip to support them? And so what really works well in our experience is paying for a trip to wherever you guys thought like the coolest place to go was,
Right.
and then make like stepmom and the kids and the grandkids and all go, and you pay for it. Like, think about that way to really like grieve and create new memories compared to just normally kids are like, stepmom's holding me up from getting my share, right? And so just sitting down and having those kind of conversations, those talks, really makes a big difference for people. Just if you don't know what questions to ask, we're the right firm for that, because we're just going to sit down and talk with you. There's no pressure or anything like that.
We can go in any direction you want, or maybe sprinkle a few across the business owner, the aging person, or the person that is trying to plan for that, the kids of aging parents, other professional advisors, how and why, or what to be thinking about in terms of teaming up with an elder care law for any of that. Just leave, if we could just leave them with a few ideas, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just always ask what happens after this. So a lot of people think that like whenever somebody has a will, they just walk into a bank and walk out with money. It doesn't work like that. A lot of people think, I can just invest my money enough where I don't need to worry about long-term care costs. Well, that's not the reality for a lot of us. A lot of times people look at their accountant and don't realize that they're not a tax strategist. And so the person that gives you your tax strategy is probably different than the person that actually files your returns. It might be in the same office, but it's just a different task. Thinking about things from a higher level or like a 10,000 foot view allows you to see more of this. You know, the guy that's down there grinding and putting stuff into your 1040 probably isn't the same person that has the big picture that's like, you know, hey Stone, make sure your truck has more than a 6-foot bed so you can deduct the whole thing this year. It's the little stuff like that you got to make sure your advisors are looking at all the facets. And I think that so often people are afraid of business getting stolen, or, you know, like, I'm going to refer him over to here, and then he's going to refer him over to some other guy, or he's going to throw me under the bus. Where if you really do it in a collaborative way, everybody wins. I mean, think about if your client has a great outcome from your financial plan, and then whenever they pass, their wife is the one that comes in with you, and they see it work well, and then the kids see it work well, they're going to be throwing your name to everybody they know. And so your business grows exponentially compared to trying to hoard those small clients or hoard the kind of sole advisor role. You look at people that are truly wealthy, and they always have teams.
Yeah.
It's not just one person. And so that's really where we want to bring that to people that aren't as wealthy. You know, most of our clients have under $1 million, including their home, just because those are the people that are really worried about healthcare costs and protecting their future.
Right.
You know, we help people with small businesses, we help people against all aspects, but especially with these new looming tax rules, you need a team. Because if they change something fast, you need to make sure that I can call your financial guy and we can say, you know, let's switch this week rather than 30 days from now. We end up having people come in that will hire us 3 years later because they just had to think about it that long, and that's okay.
You're not going anywhere, are you?
We're here.
All right, if our listeners would like to, and I'm sure they will, if they'd like to reach out and have conversation with you or someone on your team about any of these topics, or to set up that initial consultation, let's give them some coordinates, the best way to do that, whatever's appropriate, email, website, LinkedIn, whatever's appropriate.
We generally do best with starting that on a phone call, and so it's just 678-250-9355 for Nelson Elder Care Law. We also have nelsoneldercarelaw.com. You can even text through to us if that's more your style. I know that as time passes, less people are excited to jump on a phone, but you can text into us and everything like that, and we'll make it work. But you do have to text through our website there at nelsoneldercarelaw.com.
Josh Nelson, thanks again so much, man. This has been marvelous.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you want us down. Thanks so much.
All right.